Hello everyone, you're watching the program Capital Ideas Live, and I'm the host, Mike Gibson. At the end of July, the Festival of Culture of Latin America and the Caribbean begins in the capital of Russia. This is a very interesting and bright event that lasts for several days. Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Venezuela, Honduras and other countries have prepared a diverse and extensive program for Muscovites. And today we'll tell you about the most memorable events of this festival. Today on the program, the hot rhythms of tango and bossa nova in the very center of Moscow. A variety of genres and stories, the movies shown to Muscovites at the Latin American and Caribbean Film Festival. Brazilian tacos, Colombian coffee and fried banana from Ecuador, Muscovites' gastronomic journey to Latin America. Behind me is the famous Hudojstveni cinema. It's one of the oldest cinemas in the world. It was opened 114 years ago in 1909. It was in this Hudojstveni cinema that the first full-length Soviet movie with sound was first shown. And today another landmark event will take place here. In a few minutes, the official opening of the Latin American and Caribbean Film Festival will commence here. The Festival of Latin American and Caribbean Culture was first held in Moscow in 2022. The Moscow city government, represented by the Department for External Economic and International Relations of the City of Moscow, and the Department of Culture, as well as the ambassadors of diplomatic missions of participating countries, supported this event and proposed that it be held on a regular basis.
First of all, I want to congratulate and to thank the government of Moscow City for the organization and for this initiative, the Festival of Culture of Latin America. As you know, the embassies, the diplomats, will have the principal duty, the principal mission to make contact between governments, to sign agreements, but the elements, the principal elements that make contact or organize the meeting between people is the culture. So the culture is very important to make more closer the people of Russian Federation with the people of Argentina.
In the festival's extensive cultural program, a special place was allocated to the cinematography of Latin America and the Caribbean. In the evening, ambassadors, diplomats and numerous fans of Latin American cinema gathered at the Hudojstveni movie theatre for the opening ceremony of the film festival.
I always say that the relations between countries are not only because of diplomatic relations or politics or economic interchange. I think that the best way to join the peoples of two different countries is by culture. We know many things about Russia precisely because of its cinema, literature, and art. So for us, it's going to be a very important occasion to show part of our art.
I'm very interested in the Latin American music. So that's why me and my spouse interestingly come here. And I saw here it's a very excellent arrangement and the sound is very heartfelt feeling for me.
For many years now, Moscow has been at the center of crystallization and formation of a large Eurasian partnership. And I am very glad that the countries of Latin America are turning eastward along with us. Today's festival is a vivid confirmation that we are mentally close. Our two peoples are just as cheerful, lively, and emotional.
The program of the film festival featured 15 films from 11 countries: Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Venezuela, Honduras, Dominican Republic, Colombia, Costa Rica, Mexico, Nicaragua, and Peru.
We choose them very deliberately and precisely. First off, embassies presented their best films to us, and then Moschino's film experts and specialists chose films that had won at the best international film festivals. In general, Latin American cinema is well loved in modern-day Russia and has been loved since the times of the Soviet Union. The movie Yesenia was seen by more than 100 million people. It was such a wonderful Mexican film. Today, Latin American series are at the top of the list on our online platforms.
Peruvian director Eduardo Guilo will present his film Javier's Passion at the festival. This is a biographical drama about the life of the poet Javier Herrad Perez, his work, his university studies, his revolutionary activities, and his tragic early death.
I think it's very interesting for filmmakers to know each other in different festivals. I've been around many festivals. We were in France, we won 3 prizes in France for this film. And it's interesting because you gather with people of the industry and you see so different kind of films that from any kind of, from any world, any part of the world. So it's very interesting to watch that and to see that cinema is very powerful. It's not only the story that you do, but it gets you in your heart and your soul, no?
Film screenings as part of the Festival of Latin American and Caribbean Culture took place in the Moschino network of cinemas. All films were shown in their original language with Russian subtitles.
It is a great fortune when our viewers, the younger generation, have the opportunity to see Latin American and Caribbean cinema in all its diversity. This is because these films, like the countries themselves, are very colorful, very diverse. A mosaic of completely different emotions, a different film language, different directors' handwriting. The opportunity to get acquainted with these works of art is very important to enrich oneself, because cultural permeation and enrichment, well, what could be better?
I think that the film industry and the audiovisuals are very important to educate and to expound to our community the different problems that we face in terms of sustainability, in terms of life, in terms of diversity, in terms of protection of the ambience in general.
The famous Hermitage Garden has become the central venue of the festival. For 2 days, Latin American music will be played and Spanish and Portuguese languages will be spoken here from morning to evening. I suggest we don't waste any time and plunge into the atmosphere of this bright festival.
Thousands of Muscovites and guests of the capital came to the Hermitage Garden to get acquainted with the art, cuisine, costumes and traditions of Latin America and the Caribbean. The organizers prepared fascinating masterclasses and lectures on the culture and languages of this region for adults and children.
I went to a Spanish school, so Spanish and Hispanic culture is very familiar to me. I was absolutely thrilled when I heard that a celebration was being held today to commemorate this big part of my life. To this day, I am still developing in this particular direction, so I had no excuse not to come to this celebration today. I must say I am very interested in finding out how things are here in Moscow. I mean, how you are interested in our culture. And that means Latin and American culture, but of course, not forgetting and most importantly, Argentinian culture. I like music, I like to dance. And I love this kind of festival atmosphere, especially on Saturday, a siesta. I found out about this festival by accident from one of the participants' announcements. I'm interested in the Argentine drink called yerba mate. I've been actively interested in it for a year now, and I'm planning to connect my life more with Latin America.
The organizers of the festival, represented by Sergei Chiroman, Minister of the Moscow City Government, head of the Department for External Economic and International Relations of the city of Moscow, along with foreign delegates, visited the Hermitage Garden and toured the main venues of the event.
This is the language of national diplomacy, which is of course very important today. It unites the people of different countries and it allows them to share experiences. We here, as the city of Moscow, are trying to preserve relations with all countries. And we succeed thanks to such a balanced cultural and humanitarian policy of communication. Therefore, the festival is an integral part of our position to promote the cultures of different countries and, of course, different peoples. Since Moscow is a huge international city and it hosts a large number of different international festivals, it goes without saying the Moscow city government actively supports these kinds of initiatives. Therefore, for us, the festival, which unites a large number of Latin American countries, is also a symbol of strengthening our friendship. Today, we can see a huge number of people attending. People are dancing, children are dancing, taking part, drawing. This is happiness, because culture unites. It is the bridge. And we don't need anything. We don't even need an interpreter. We just need to open our hearts and accept each other. Moscow is a hospitable city, which today welcomes all Latin countries. I liked how yesterday, for example, the Indonesian ambassador Igor Bailan said that it's awesome to see all these Latin nations coming together to do a festival just like this. We should do an Asian festival. Let's talk about it. And you understand, after 2 years of the festival, it is already so vigorous, bright, and most importantly, interesting. This is a celebration of friendship, a celebration of uniting nations that have loved each other for many years. This festival will help us to get to know each other better and introduce Muscovites to our food, our music, our cinema, our culture. The Russian Federation and Latin America are separated only by geographical distance. In everything else, we are very close.
The grounds of the park were divided into 16 thematic zones. The most vibrant Latin American and Russian musical groups performed on the main stage. The festival guests danced to the rhythms of samba and bossa nova, Argentine folk music, Latin jazz, and, of course, bachata, performed by the Dominican ensemble El Domi.
In the area for all Latin America. We have a Russian saxophonist, a Russian trumpet player. We have Mike, who is playing bass with us, and he's from El Salvador, Cuba, so it's like a mix of everything good.
That's great. And you specialize in Latin American music, yeah?
Yes, exactly.
And so how do you choose the music you want to play?
Well, basically in Dominican Republic, we have merengue and bachata and mambo. These are like the main three rhythms of the Dominican Republic. And well, basically, that's the reason why I wanted to play all of them here, because in Russia, it's the first time that there is a Dominican band. And I will explain you shortly. In Russia, it's very popular bachata, but between dancers, you understand? Like there are so many schools of bachata, of dancers. And I was like, when I moved here, I mean, I love rock, metal, jazz, blues. And I say, why not? You know, this is I could make the first Dominican band. Like, let's play some bachata, let's play some merengue. And of course, I know people will like it.
It's good, and the crowd loved it today.
Thank you so much.
And how do you feel about this festival of Latin American?
I'm really excited, and I'm so thankful as well, especially for the government of Moscow, right? Who invited us, and our Dominican Republic embassy here in Moscow, our consul, our ambassador, Hans, did a great job here as well, and I'm so proud of him for inviting us here today.
Great. Ooh. I feel like a real Cuban. A large cultural program for this year's festival was prepared by the Embassy of the Republic of Colombia.
Ooh, wow.
I really like this kind of vibrant style. This is the work of a Colombian artist.
Colombia is known in Russia for its great writers, most notably Gabriel Garcia Marquez. The famous painter Botero is also well known here. His paintings are exhibited in Moscow in the Pushkin Museum. They also know our soccer team, who played at the World Cup in Russia in 2018, at which the Russian people welcomed us with great love. They also know our famous commodities, especially coffee and the flowers that decorate the homes of Russians on holidays.
Latin American countries are known, among other things, for their bright, large-sized graffiti murals. That is why one of the stages of the Street Art Festival, Russia Latin America, was held on one of the sites of the Hermitage Garden. The project is being implemented as part of the Mayor's Grants competition with the support of the Moscow Committee for Public Relations and Youth Policy.
This is the culminating event of the project. In other words, we have the project going on throughout the year. We have a wonderful creative website where you can learn all about street art in Russia and Latin America. There we publish all our materials, interesting photos, and articles that immerse one in the context of this direction of contemporary art. Street art is one of the directions of contemporary art which has a distinctly urban character to it. It is art in the city. It's art that has come to urban spaces, that shapes our reality today. And, of course, street art pieces are becoming more and more common inside cities.
For 2 days, 12 artists from Russia, Colombia, and Venezuela simultaneously created large-scale graphic works on 3 large cubes, which symbolize the unity and friendship of nations.
I prepared a sketch of the work I wanted to depict here in advance. But first, I let the children draw a little and experiment with the color palette I had chosen here. They had complete freedom to express themselves. And then, of course, I started my work. I decided to depict a Russian girl because, well, I want to show the beauty of Russian women. Then I drew a bird. This, as you see here, is the troupial. It's our national bird and a symbol of Venezuela.
At one of the festival grounds, visitors were able to see a performance by capoeira masters and take part in a masterclass of this Brazilian martial art.
The most basic movement in capoeira is called ginga. It's the most basic move. We're standing like we're in a mirror.
Like a mirror?
In a mirror. And just the feet. 1, 2,
2, 1.
Arm. Okay, now we step. Put your foot back and switch hands. There. 1.
The most important thing is to relax and enjoy the dance.
Wow.
The central part of the garden houses a farm of llamas and alpacas. The ancestral homeland of these animals is widely considered to be South America.
This is not a wild animal. It's been domesticated by humans for many, many generations. But this is its original coloring. You can see black llamas, white llamas, spotted llamas, but this particular coloring is exactly the same as you would find in the wild.
Can they be trained?
Llamas have a certain behavioral trait. When they fight with each other, they bite each other's legs, and so to avoid hurting their legs, they fold them up. For example, if I touch the front leg, he will do a bow, which is essentially an element of training.
Beautiful. Ooh, so pleasant. Traditionally, wool from llamas and alpacas is used to make clothing in Latin America. Each item is carefully handcrafted by artisans.
Alpaca wool is 5 to 6 times finer than sheep's wool.
And is that why it's so soft?
Yes, and it also has many other properties. For example, it's more dirt resistant, so you can wear it for longer periods of time without having to wash it. You can feel, for example, that it's very warm.
It's very soft and cozy. In the food court, festival guests were able to taste and learn how to cook a variety of gastronomic hits of Latin American cuisine: tacos, burritos, nachos, and many other unusual things. For example, fried bananas, a traditional street food in Ecuador. This dish is typically served with salty cheese.
There you go.
Wow.
Thank you. So tasty. Can I eat this with my hands?
Yeah, sure.
Very tasty. And this fruit is called rambutan, a fruit from my childhood. And now we come to Mexico. Marat, hello. Tell us, what is there to eat here?
We have Mexican food, we're making tacos. Today we have shrimp tacos, pork tacos, and chicken tacos. For you, we're going to make shrimp tacos.
The base of the taco is a thin tortilla made of wheat and corn flour. They are filled with delicious ingredients and topped with an avocado and spice sauce. A must try, it's delicious. Very tasty. It's a real rainbow of flavors. Super. At the end of the bright weekend in the Hermitage Garden, the baton of the Festival of Latin American and Caribbean Culture was passed on to other venues in the city. Among them was the Margarita Rudomino All-Russian State Library for Foreign Literature.
For more than 100 years, the Foreign Library has paid great attention to the popularization of history, culture, literature, and traditions of the most diverse countries of the world. Now, naturally, the Latin Caribbean region occupies a special place in the spectrum of our friends, nations, and partners. It is a region that is well loved and known in Russia, and we actively collaborate with the embassies of all Latin Caribbean countries who are accredited in Moscow.
And now we will listen to lectures about Latin American countries, their unique history and distinctive culture. During the week, ambassadors and diplomats from the Republic of El Salvador, Nicaragua, Argentina, Mexico, and the Dominican Republic gave lectures at the library, alongside a variety of art exhibitions and concerts of Latin American folk groups.
We wanted to find a way to convey everything we feel. Our lights, our weather, our sea, our oceans. And we wanted to somehow bring it all to Russia. That's our idea, in a way. The idea that we envisioned. And furthermore, that's how we'll get to know each other. We'll introduce the people of our culture. So imagine everything being beautiful in one language, embodied in something that speaks to culture, that also speaks to life.
The Festival of Latin American and Caribbean Culture has come to an end, but it has not said goodbye to Moscow. Next year, we are sure that residents and guests of the capital will again be able to plunge into the whirlwind of bright colours, tastes and rhythms of this unique and, as it turned out, in many ways, familiar Moscow festival.
That's the end of the Festival of Culture of Latin America and the Caribbean. This bright summer event was a great success among Muscovites and guests of the capital. We are glad that we were able to plunge into the atmosphere of this festival and get acquainted with the culture, history and traditions of these countries. You've watched the programme Capital Ideas Life, and I'm the host, Mike Gibson. See you next time.